There are three things I could have sworn would never happen to me. First, that I'd give up a cherished passion. Second, that I wouldn't have a stable business by 30. And third, that I'll end up with an ADHD and autism diagnosis. Last year, I sat in this same spot, in this same room, with the same old Android phone and poured out my heart in a video I called Confession of an Almost 30 Broke-Ass Girl. I didn't know it then, but everything I described in that video, the self-doubts, the quitting, the fear, the shame, the overthinking, wasn't just a lack of discipline or laziness or weakness like I thought. It was undiagnosed ADHD and autism, and fighting that out changed everything. For most of my life, I believed I was a problem. Every missed deadline, every failed project, every brilliant idea I abandoned halfway, every meltdown that came out of nowhere, every time I sabotaged something good before it could even start, I blamed me. And when I say blamed, I mean I hated myself. I thought I just lacked discipline, that I was lazy, unreliable, broken. In my first video, I shared what it felt like to start over. I talked about hitting rock bottom, watching everything I built fall apart, and choosing, despite the shame, to begin again. That was supposed to be the turning point, the start of something new. I even promised to show up weekly to track my healing journey. But then, I disappeared again. The very thing I was trying to change, my inconsistency, showed up and dragged me right back into the shadows. I had ideas, so many, and they were good, beautiful actually. One week I was designing a brand I was proud of. The next week, I couldn't even open the folder. I didn't know why. At some point, I convinced myself I had spiritual problems because tell me why I'd keep spending money, energy, time, and heart on things only to abandon them midway. My family thought the same. They've thought it since I was a child. But something in me refused to believe that was the full story. There had to be something else, something that explained why I could be so brilliant in one moment and paralyzed the next, why the same cycle kept repeating no matter how hard I tried. So I did what I've always done when I feel helpless. I turned to science. And that's when I stumbled on something that changed everything. ADHD and Autism Spectrum Disorder Level 1. I didn't want to believe it at first. ADHD was the hyperactive white boy disorder. And autism, that wasn't for people like me. That wasn't for Nigerian girls raised to be well behaved and high achieving. It wasn't for someone who made eye contact or got good grades or who spent years studying psychology. I didn't look autistic. This wasn't supposed to be my story. But the deeper I dug, the more it made sense. Too much sense, even. And it happened so quickly, I almost thought it was a nightmare. From seeing this one very eye opening reel on Instagram to researching about ADHD and autism, especially in women, to booking a hospital visit and finally getting an evaluation and diagnosis. Suddenly, the spiraling, the overthinking, the idea hopping, the emotional waves, the exhaustion, the inability to do simple things even when I wanted to, they all had a name, a pattern, a reason. And when I look back at those three videos I've made so far, all of them were full of evidence, receipts, one after the other. Every trait was screaming, this wasn't just anxiety, this wasn't just depression, this wasn't just sabotage, this was executive dysfunction, this was sensory overload, this was autistic burnout, this was masking, chronic masking. It's why I couldn't stay consistent no matter how many planners I bought or routines I designed, because you can't mindset your way out of a nervous system that works differently. It's why I hyperfixated on new business ideas, then dropped them when the dopamine ran out. It's why I struggled with transitions, hated loud sounds, needed structure, but couldn't follow through with it. It's why I've always lived in my head because the outside world just moved too fast, too loud, too much. And the truth is, I wasn't lazy. I wasn't disobedient. I wasn't unserious. I wasn't broken. I was just misunderstood, even by me. That realization broke something open inside me. They say there are 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, acceptance. I went through all. And honestly, I'm still going through some. It felt like I lost someone, myself. The version of me that believed I was just not trying hard enough. The denial was the hardest, especially for autism. The anger and sadness came in waves, long, violent waves. I'd get so mad that I didn't know all these years, despite having psychology as a special interest. Then I'll break down crying, drowning in pain. There's this one time I went so crazy, my neighbor came rushing through the door asking if someone died. I wanted to tell her, yes, I did. I spent the whole of 2 months stuck in that cycle. It was the longest 2 months of my life. I never once considered that maybe, just maybe, wasn't my fault. Honestly, just having a name for it changes everything. Yes, the process sucked. I lost 3 decades of my life to misunderstanding myself, suffering shame, and being gaslighted several times. And getting a proper diagnosis, that was a nightmare. All caps. And story for another day. And in a place of that version that died, another emerged, one with language, one with clarity. Now, when I forget something important, I say, that's a working memory again. When I avoid a task I care about, I say, that's task paralysis, executive dysfunction. When I cry uncontrollably after one small comment, I say, that's just rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And when I need silence and darkness after a long day, I say, that's sensory overload. And saying those things, naming them, it's not an excuse, it's freedom. Because for the first time in 30 years, I stopped gaslighting myself. I stopped comparing myself to people who aren't like me. I stopped reading productivity books that were never meant for brains like mine. I stopped chasing versions of myself that never truly existed. Instead, I'm meeting myself where I am. Yes, I still grieve. I still have days when the sadness hits like a wave. When I think about how much time I lost, how many dreams I buried, how many versions of myself I punished, how much shame I carried for being someone I couldn't explain. But now, there's space for softness, for compassion, for truth. And that truth is, I'm neurodivergent, not by choice, not by a trend, but by design. It's the reason I process emotions deeply. It's why I hyperanalyze conversations long after they've ended. It's why I talk to myself constantly, rehearse what I want to say, but still freeze when it's time to speak up. It's why I love routine, but get sick of it quickly. It's why I crave deep meaning, not surface level talk. It's why I feel things, joy, grief, overwhelm with my whole body. It's why I've always felt different. And you know what? Now that I know this, I can finally build a life that fits me. I can stop fighting my brain and start working with it. I can unmask. I can stop people pleasing, stop overcommitting, stop blaming myself for not being normal. And I can start honoring the way I move through the world. It's still hard. There's still grief, but there's also relief. Because this story I've lived, the messy, non-linear, beautiful story, it finally makes sense. I didn't waste 30 years. I survived 30 years without a map. And the beautiful part, I can finally look at my younger self with compassion. And instead of feeding her the same shitty advice the world gave me, I can say, hey, love, The world isn't made of people who get things done consistently. Some of us are different. Some of us get bored of routines. Some of us are idea machines. Some of us hate small talk and bright lights and loud sounds. Some of us crave order but live in chaos. Some of us can do consistency, not because we don't want to, but because our brains were never designed that way. And that's okay. People like us exist too. And now that we know, let's start learning how to work with our brain and not against it. I'm Missy Abdul, and I am learning to unmask.